Hi. So, ever since I could hold a pencil and started drawing, I just knew that I was going to be an artist. There was no way around it, and there was just nothing else that I wanted to do. It was a very simple thought. I was lucky to have been grown up in environments where my family fully supported my decision, and I just never had any negative views tossed at me for wanting to create art. So I decided to pursue art through education by moving from my small hometown here in Honolulu to San Francisco at the Academy of Art University. And I entered with illustration as my major. 3 years in, I'm barely passing my illustration classes. I take my first painting class and realized, oh, this is what I want to do. So I switched majors to fine art painting, partly because with illustration, there was a lot to do with creating work that someone else, like a client, wanted you to create. And with fine art painting, I got the freedom to choose my own subject, which I really liked. So I do that, fast forward 3 more years, I'm graduated and ready to move on with my life. It wasn't until after graduation that I had my first run-in with someone who had negative views about being a working artist. A friend of mine and I were painting each other's portrait at Ghirardelli Square during a live painting exercise, and some random woman passes by and she calls out to us saying, "Oh, how nice it must be to sit around and paint while the rest of us have to be hard at work during the day." So what a lot of people like this woman don't realize is that being a working artist is actually very hard work. So my initial naive dream of I'm just going to be an artist and I'm going to sell my work, everything's going to be good, was slowly crumbling after graduating, especially living in such an expensive city like San Francisco. It was a lot harder than they thought. So I was figuring out how to make that happen. I realized that a lot of it, especially in SF, had to do with kind of who you know, because it's very insular with the art market there, and a lot of luck. So I keep working my full-time job, doing rice ball onigiri making and random side gigs on the side. I save up a bunch of money, and I decide to, instead of blowing all that money on an apartment in San Francisco, I moved to Austin, Texas, where living is way cheaper. So my boyfriend and I moved with the plan of using up our savings to live off of and just focus on trying to push art as a career. I spent every single day painting and creating, and during this time, I really built up not just my artistic portfolio, but I really find my voice as an artist. So I get into a couple shows here and there, but by the end of the year, I ran out of money, and I needed to get a part-time job again. And I was beating myself up and saying that I was a major failure for not making it. So I thought that at the time, but in hindsight, I realized that time was so crucial for me to really develop myself as an artist, and it almost felt like having a sabbatical just without the security behind it, a little bit of creative freedom. So I come back home now to Hawaii, mostly because of my family. I miss them a lot, and Hawaii's great, I mean, come on. I want to take care of them as they're getting older now, so I realize I'm back in an expensive city, and there's a lot to do with really trying to be a working artist that I realize that's not just about creating art in order to make it. There's a lot of juggling of different things involved. So one of the first lucky opportunities that I received when I moved back was becoming a resident artist here at the Impact Hub, which means I got to paint this mural for them over here in exchange for a solo exhibition and some studio space that I got to use, which is great. But most importantly, I was able to get kind of a taste of the Hawaii art scene that really developed and flourished while I was gone for 7 years. I was getting into a couple of group and solo shows here locally, and on top of that, I started a side art group called Pena People. Pena means to paint in Hawaiian, and and we sell original t-shirt designs using part of the profits to create recycled public art using marine debris, hosting beach cleanups. And I also fell in love with painting murals and I wanted to paint more, so I went off to paint some in several businesses in Waikiki, as well as one for Kaneohe Elementary School of Daniel Kaka. And I also started teaching classes here at the Hub. The Hub is really great, you guys. You should check it out if you don't know it already. So they're expressionism classes, and they're all about conveying emotion through art. So I find it kind of funny that at first I was switching from illustration major to fine art because of the fact that I wanted my freedom to choose whatever it is that I want to paint. And coming here and being a working artist now, I realize that there's a balance between the art that I choose to do and the art that is made for client needs, like in graphic design work, and there's also a middle ground between that. So I'm still working on maintaining the balance between all of this. So there's a lot of scary and unfamiliar things that I had to jump into, and a lot of it I realized was to build upon myself not just as an artist, but also as an entrepreneur. This was not really something they taught you in art school so much, focusing on the business side of things. I still work a part-time job to this day, but it's only a couple days out of the week now, and I'm able to spend much more time on my arts and try to pursue it as a full-time career, which I now kind of feel like I have the better idea of how to get there anyway. So I no longer see having a part-time job as a failure, of course. It's definitely a necessity to have some kind of financial stability in order to supplement your arts. Hawaii has really opened me up to seeing how all the different avenues one takes in order to survive here should be seen as a resourceful blessing. There's a lot that I learned about myself through tackling all these different paths, and really that initial naive dream of becoming a working artist doesn't seem so foolish to me anymore. Perhaps it's these naive dreams that help push us towards our goals and help us thrive and adapt no matter the obstacles. So, to conclude my story, I'd like to explain the story of my mural for you guys here. The Impact Hub gave me a general theme of community, which is very fitting for here. So, I titled this Spirits of Hawaii, and basically it's a representation of how I view my home of Hawaii. A combination of many different cultures and rich traditions, and just a mishmash melting pots of not just America, but I feel like Hawaii is a prime example of melting pot in our country. I put a lot of attention to detail in every single element in here, whether it's a figure or architecture or textile, just because I feel like the viewer will have to spend time with each element as they view it, whether it's something that's familiar or unfamiliar to them maybe, just as they would in real life when you are faced with someone or something that might be an unknown or the other. I also painted the floor just a little couple feet from the wall with several different textiles and floor mats and rugs from all over the world all together so that when the viewer walks over it, and I encourage everyone to walk over it, no one wants to do it, but you can, and it's supposed to be just one floor and walked over as one. So, thanks for listening to my story.